in the tongue, on the tongue. They are much numerous in relation to the valid papillae. You know, the sulcus terminalis in front of that valid papillae, they are more numerous, the taste buds. Sensation of a taste from the anterior two-thirds of the tongue, that is the part of the tongue lying anterior to the sulcus terminalis, but excluding the valid papillae through the lingual nerve and chorda tympani and the facial nerve. Sensation of a taste from the posterior one-third of the tongue is part of a tongue posterior to the sulcus terminalis, including the valid papillae, are carried over by the glossopharyngeal nerve. Anterior two-thirds by lingual and posterior one-third by the glossopharyngeal nerve. The taste fibers from the posterior most part of the tongue just in front of the epiglottis, and from the taste buds of the epiglottis they are carried to the superior laryngeal branch of the vagus nerve. The course of a taste fibers from the soft palate, that is shown in diagram given to you 53.56. On entering the brainstem, all fibers of the taste traveling through the facial, glossopharyngeal and vagus nerve end in the upper part of the nucleus of the Tractus solitarius. So, tip of the tongue, anterior two-thirds, posterior one-third, all of this goes towards the sensation, goes towards the brain. New fibers arising from the nucleus travel to the thalamus through the solitaro-thalamic tract, that is shown in diagram number 54.4. The fibers reach to the ventral posterior-medial nucleus of the thalamus. From here, they are relayed to the central cortex, areas 3 to 1. The fibers form part of a superior thalamic radiation passing through the posterior limb of the internal capsule. Now the pathway of a smell. This is about the pathway of a taste and diarrhea. Pathway of a smell, that is olfaction. The olfactory pathway of a smell see that so this is about the spatial senses, the olfactory pathway that we have already. Olfactory pathway lastly it reaches in the cerebrum. So the most important, we have seen the vision, we have seen the sensation of a hearing, the two ways, the out of which the cortex, that cochlear test is easy rather than the vestibular test. Then the sensation of a taste, we just have seen the is important, and the skin, the cutaneous tissues are there, or the cutaneous nerve, there is cutaneous nerve, gives the sensation via that innervation, sensation, sensory and motor. the sensory nerve of the sensation is there. Some clinical important points regarding the nervous system. So, regarding the CSF, an abnormal increase in the quantity of CSF lead to the enlargement of the head, and this is called as hydrocephalus, mostly in childhood, and due to the lack of venous sinuses. If venous sinus the production of the CSF is there, and if it is not absorbed, it goes on enlarge and enlarge. Then abnormal pressure of CSF leads to the degeneration of a brain tissue. Hydrocephalus may be caused by excessive production of CSF. पहिल्यांदा तयारच जास्त होतं. Secondly, by obstruction to its flow. By obstruction. It surrounds the brain, around the central and around the spinal cord. If there is an obstruction in that way, it may lead to the hydrocephalus, the impaired absorption. It is produced and not reabsorbed. Reabsorption is essential. If the reabsorption is not there and production is there, the condition leads to the hydrocephalus. It is classified as an obstructive hydrocephalus, in which there is obstruction in the way of a circulation of that CSF. Another, the communicating when such a obstruction is not present, the ventricular system to the subarachnoid space, that is called as the communicating. There may be obstruction in the communicating, that is from the subarachnoid space and from the ventricular system. The obstruction is most likely occurs of CSF to pass through the narrow passages, that is interventricular foramina, where there is a possibility of the obstruction. Interventricular foramina, the aqueduct, and the aperture of a fourth ventricle. These are the very three common sites where there is an obstruction. It gets occluded by some embolus or whatever, by some substance. The way get occluded or obstructed. Then on each of the above instances, dilatation of a confine to the cavities proximal to the obstruction. Occasionally, meningitis, that is infection to the CSF or the meninges, may lead to the obstruction of the narrow interval between the tentorium cerebri and the brainstem. Now the meningitis may lead to the hydrocephalus by affecting the arachnoid villi, thus hampering the reabsorption of the CSF. Now samples of CSF are often required for the help of the clinical diagnosis. But here one must be taken the CSF sample in some cases should be taken from the above in the upper level, but that CSF, that is from vertebra 3rd and 4th generally, or general spinal anesthesia that is used. But there also the testing can be done of a CSF if the flow is continuous, but there is a doubt. If there is an obstruction, the CSF may be tested. Meningitis may lead to the hydrocephalus by affecting that is arachnoid villi and hampering the reabsorption of a CSF. Samples of the CSF are often required to help of the clinical diagnosis. They are obtained mostly from the lumbar puncture In this procedure, a needle is introduced in the subarachnoid space through the interval between the third and fourth lumbar vertebra. Under exceptional circumstances, see, अतिशय विशेष वेळा, the CSF may be obtained by cisternal puncture in which the needle is passed into the cerebellomedullary system. Cerebellomedullary system. Blood-brain barrier, that is one of the system from the brain to the blood. There is a barrier. It has been observed that while some substances can pass from the blood into the brain with ease, others are prevented from doing so. This has given rise to the concept of a selective barriers between the blood and brain. Anatomically, the structure that could constitute the barrier is as follows: capillary endothelium, basement membrane of the endothelium, the closely applied to the vessels. There are numerous processes of the astrocytes. It has been estimated that these processes cover about 85% of the capillary surface. Some areas of the brain, some areas of the brain which are related to structures appear to the divide of the blood-brain barrier. These include the pineal body, hypophysis cerebri, that is pituitary gland, and the choroid plexuses and certain other regions. What is ventriculography? Ventriculography, it is a diagnostic technique. Ventricles of the brain can be studied in living subjects by taking radiographs after injecting a radio-opaque dye into the ventricular city. This procedure is called as a ventriculography. Parts of the ventricles can also be seen using that is computerized tomography, CT scan, and magnetic resonance imaging, that is MRI, that we have already studied during the brain. There are a number of investigation procedures regarding the brain. So internal carotid artery, the nervous system, blood supply. The internal carotid artery we already seen. Then the various at the base of the brain there is a very special circle called as the circle of villi. So, as all of you know, there are for the nervous system, there are various techniques for the diagnostic purpose. Firstly, we have seen the lumbar puncture. It is done in between the subarachnoid space of the third and fourth lumbar vertebra, where the needle is being passed, and the sample of a CSF is taken in the radiological procedure, in which the X-rays are made. Plain radiographs of the skull may give evidences of the disease when the skull bones are affected or when they give an area of the calcification. For the study of the bones only, the radiographs, the injected Air injected into the subarachnoid space through the lumbar puncture ascends in the spinal subarachnoid space to the cranial cavity. The ear can be seen in the radiographs. Now the ventricles can be visualized by injecting the radio-opaque dyes directly into the lateral ventricle, that is ventriculography. The abnormal dilatation of the ventricular system, hydrocephalus, can be detected. The vascular system of the brain can be visualized by injecting the radio-opaque material into the common carotid and vertebral arteries, that is called as a cerebral angiography. Cerebral angiography for the if there is an occlusion of any small arteries, that is in the circle of Willis. Then the spinal subarachnoid space can be visualized by injecting the radio-opaque material, that is called as a myelography. Abnormal appearances are seen in the procedures mentioned above, help to determine the nature and location of the extra growths or masses present in relation with the brain or spinal cord. So that radiological procedure help in the diagnosis of bones, bony growths or internal growth. Now electrophysiological methods. First of all, we have seen the lumbar puncture. Secondly, X-rays or that radiography. Now the electrophysiological methods. Information about functioning of the brain can be obtained by study of a pattern of electrical activities. Within it, electrodes are supplied over the scalp of various points. These are connected to the machine that records the electrical potential. This procedure is called as a electroencephalography, that is EEG. EEG, especially EEG is applied for in the epileptic patients. Electrical activity procedures or accompanies muscle contraction. This can be recorded in the suitable machines. The procedure is called as a electromyography. If you want to know the functioning of the particular muscle, that with the electrical stimulus, that is called as a electromyography, that is EMG. It is a very specialized technique. If there is a paralysis or dysfunction of a muscle, particular muscle or in the actions, the electromyography is being studied. A group of flexors or an individual muscle can be also studied under electromyography. Now, the rate of conduction of a nerve fibers can also be measured by electrical methods. If the rate is not correct, that is also measured by the electrophysiological methods. One of the standard methods of neurophysiological investigation has been to stimulate the particular part of the nervous system and to be record on evoked potentials from the other regions. Most such experiments have been done on animals after exposing the regions concerned. The sophisticated instruments are now available that enable similar studies to be done in human subjects through surface electrodes. Using such methods, it is possible to determine the integrity or otherwise the various pathways. So this is a electrophysiological, that is interiorly with the help of the how the changes takes place. That is EEG, electroencephalography. Another technique is a ultrasound method. In the ultrasound method here, now ultrasound, the magnetic, the ultrasound, the not magnetic, the small sounds coming from the interior of the body, especially from the soft parts, are more better to be seen in the ultrasonography. So ultrasound waves applied to any part of the body are reflected back to the various structures. That is more to be used in the soft parts. The reflected waves or the echo can be picked up and visualized on the screen. The waves are applied and reflected waves of the sound can be seen on the screen. That is ultrasonography. Images of the internal organs can be obtained in this way. In the field of the neurology, ultrasound wave can be used to detect the shift of a midline structure, that is the valve cerebri. The technique is called as a echoencephalography. Otherwise, generally only in some parts the ultrasound is used. Otherwise, ultrasound is more to be used in the abdomen. Now, CT scan. That computerized tomography, the term tomography has been applied for a radiological method in which tissues lying in a particular plate are visualized. The recent years, a technique has been developed in which the series of levels studied in this way are analyzed using computers. Such analysis provides the images giving a remarkable degree of details. The procedure is called as a computerized tomography, CT scan. The technique of a revolutionized neurological diagnosis and has rendered many older techniques, that is, obsolete. Now, the growths and other disorders of various other lessons can be obtained in with the confidence. Now, the most modern technique is the magnetic resonance imaging. This is a technique that produces imaging of outstanding clarity of a structure inside the body. The techniques uses very powerful magnetic fields, that is radio frequency waves, and sophisticated computer analysis to form the images. Now, disadvantages of a very high cost. The MRI is a little bit costly, taken and need for the patient to keep very still for many minutes. So that disadvantage of this MRI is little bit. Then the ventriculogram, the visualization of the interior of the ventricle for blocking with the help of the radio opaque dyes by introducing the dyes into the ventricle can be done. The arteries of the brain can be visualized by some technique, by the technique of a carotid angiography. So these are the various techniques. They are to be utilized in the diagnosis of a central nervous system. The first technique we have already seen, the lumbar puncture, and cisternal puncture is also done. Cisternal puncture in case of a obstructive in the way of the CSF. So that lumbar puncture is done even for the lumbar anesthesia below the level of a hip joint or below for the lower extremity, and the radiological procedures are better to be studied for any bone growth or a raphe, that ventriculography, ventricles by applying the radio opaque dyes in the CSF. The electrophysiological methods we have seen. The electrical waves that is coming from the brain is measured or is detected in a graphical way by which the diagnosis is made. This is more to be applied in case of a epileptic patients, petit mal and grand mal. For both type of epilepsies or epileptic patient, this technique is being used. So we must have to keep in mind the electrophysiological methods. The electrical activities in the brain can be visualized in a graphical manner, can be studied, and the diagnosis is made like that. There is some disadvantage of lumbar puncture for the diagnosis of a CSF. If there is an obstruction, hydrocephalus due to the obstruction in the way above the spinal cord, then the CSF do not come in the around the spinal cord, and that is a disadvantage of the lumbar puncture. You can't diagnose CSF which is moving around that is circulating around the brain. The diagnosis that CSF do not come in the lumbar if there is a obstruction. The electrophysiological, the study of electrical waves coming from the brain is studied for the diagnosis of some diseases like a vertigo, especially for the grand mal and petit mal epileptic seizures or the epileptic attacks. The ultrasound method is very less, that is only tested in case of ventricular study, a pulse cerebri, for a diagnosis of a pulse cerebri only. The computerized tomography we have seen, that is used for the imaging on a plate. Nowadays this technique is too much advanced and can be studied. The magnetic resonance imaging, just we have seen, the MRI is more advanced technique, and although it is little bit costly, it can diagnose, and various other dyes that we have seen, the technique of angiography of a carotid at the base of the brain if there is an obstruction of the circle of Willis smaller arteries. So it can, these are the various techniques of diagnosis of central nervous system or of a brain. Thank you.